Hi guys, welcome back to my video series, Agile Development 101. In the last episode, we finished the remaining cards in the sprint, and now we're going to do a sprint review. So this is a meeting that the product owner will call. We'll invite the development team and various stakeholders in order to look at the progress on the product and then give feedback on what to do next. So I've got my product here, and what it has is so under the customer we have quotes. These are the first line item, and then underneath those the sub items are the shipments, and it's possible to create a new shipment under a quote like this. If we do so, we get a shipment. When we come back, you can see there's a new one down there. The text inside here is all placeholder, so none of it is accurate right now. That's something we'll have to fix. We'll have to adjust as we go forward, but we don't have all this information in the shipment yet. So only once it's there, we'll be able to do it. So far we brought the cargo section in, the cargo editor, and you notice it's a bit different than the quote editor. In the quote editor, the packages, you have a choice, either packages or containers. So for that, in the quote you have either loose or containerized cargo. In the shipment, right now you have both, which only makes sense for sea freight. It doesn't make sense for air freight, so we may have to we'll probably have to adjust that somewhere. But right now there's no indication of whether it's going on a ship or it's going on an airplane. So you can see that, and we've also got a description which is not present on the quote. That's something we could add if we wanted to, store it on the quote. And we have the ability to save. So if I hit save, when I come back in, everything is still there. And I can also archive. So when I archive, I come back, then it gets grayed out. Right now there's no way to unarchive, and you can also keep saving archived stuff, archived shipments. But you know, the basics are coming together, and where we're going to go next is we're going to flesh out the other main sections of the shipment. So if you look at the product backlog, there's the movement and the status, and then link it to the quotation, and then generate a shipping document. So these are the steps that we have coming up next. So that might be what the product owner says at the demo. Then he would ask for feedback, and people would probably be asking questions like, well, what about air freight? How are we going to get rid of this? And maybe feature requests and that type of thing. It sounds harsh, but the most important word for any product owner is always the word no. The word no is so important because everybody who looks at software can think of a feature request. It's very easy to come up with feature requests. But feature requests, like building a feature, has cost. Requesting a feature has no cost. And the product owner is responsible for value, which means generating benefit greater than cost. So if the product owner just says yes to everything, that person is also saying yes to a lot of features which may have much less benefit than cost. They're actually destroying value by saying yes to their stakeholders. It puts the product owner in a difficult position because typically the stakeholders will be higher ranked than him or her, higher ranked in the organization. But part of adopting Scrum is putting the product owner in a position where they can make decisions, even if people higher ranked than them don't like those decisions. Because as soon as you take away that decision-making ability, you take away any kind of accountability. And so this requires coaching on both parts. It requires coaching for the product owner to be proactive about saying no, because this is his primary tool for creating value is saying no, and coaching of the stakeholders to accept that no is probably the answer to most ad hoc feature requests. Stakeholders can provide the most value by giving strategic direction. So if there's someone um, viewing this who comes from a sales background, then they could give insight into the types of initiatives that their sales organization has taken up, and provide details to those initiatives, which then the product owner and the development team can take into account as they continue development. That's a bit different than making demands on the development team saying add this field or change this label. That's way more tactical than uh, should be the case for any for a stakeholder. Similarly, if there was an operational person, they could give insight into the direction the operation is going, or issues they might be having, or processes that are failing. Um, Presenting business cases rather than focusing on a solution, because typically the solution ends up being kind of myopically focused on UI, um, and given by someone who probably doesn't understand application design or interactive design to begin with. um, It'll be much easier and more effective to find solutions if we know what the problem is. So the stakeholders should be focused on either describing problems or describing opportunities, but not so much focused on how the solution should be implemented. That's one of the rules of Scrum. Nobody tells the development team how to build what they're building. It's their job. They're a cross-functional self-managing team, and they should be encouraged to make their own decisions about how to implement something. And they're frankly the ones with the most information, the most detailed information around them. Um, the information they don't have is kind of this external stuff that the stakeholders need to bring to the table. That external stuff is not UI expertise. UI expertise comes from the development team. Business processes, business trends, that type of thing is what stakeholders need to provide. They also need to provide budget and timelines and other types of factors that the development team may not be aware of. Um, but there is a clear separation of responsibility. The implementation and decision making is all within the Scrum team, um, and the link to the rest of the business is provided by the product owner. Um, so Right. What are we doing next? We talked about it a little bit. Um, we're gonna keep fleshing out the editor, and then we're gonna do some document generation. And I'm a bit worried about the document generation because um, I think this might turn into a lot more work than it needs to be. So what we may do is kind of like a stub document where we just dump the information onto a PDF, not really properly formatted, just as kind of a placeholder until we have the full format available from the business and we know more about what direction we're going. Um, that's that's a way to minimize the work we do on these two kind of potentially monster tasks. I think the rest of it should go pretty smoothly, um, and we will get to our MVP pretty quickly. Once we have our MVP, let's go to the roadmap. Once we have the MVP, then we'll drop in some accounting, and it's worth the product owner thinking about what needs to go into the accounting now, so that the product owner can start gathering any kind of resources that might be needed by the development team to develop it. You can imagine that accounting has um, a lot of arbitrary rules that we have no choice over. What account to accrue under, where to book credits and debits. This is not something the development team should just make up. These are um, recorded in US GAAP or in IFRS. So the product owner may go look for an expert who could help the development team understand what's necessary for the accounting if the product owner doesn't know themselves, and think a little bit about strategy for implementing an accounting system that isn't too complex and doesn't get in the way of the operational focus of this system, because ultimately it's an operational system. Okay, so that is the product review. Next, we would have a sprint retrospective, where instead of talking about the product, which we just did, we would talk about the process and look at the definition of done and the interactions on the team. And there is something that I wanted to bring up to myself, which is that I am not properly testing my display layer, my view layer. I have created some, so I open up an example, edit shipment. No, edit cargo is probably a good one. So edit cargo, there's a lot of like conditional display in here, which each kind of path in the code, any kind of if statement basically makes two paths through the code. Either it's true or it's false. These different if statements, these different paths are not being exercised by any tests. I only have one test, which is basically that a component renders, but it doesn't, what it should be doing is exercising all the different combinations of true or false for these three Boolean variables, which I didn't do, and I have a bad habit of skipping, but I should do. And I have technical debt now because I have not done this, and I should eliminate that technical debt. So what I want to do is strengthen my definition of done and add a condition that I'll exercise the different configurations in the properties, the props of the components. So I'm going to take my definition of done. I'm going to go to the next card in my list, which is this. Well, which one am I probably going to do next? I think I'm probably going to do this next. And I'm going to add a, I'm going to reorder this a little bit. And view layer test exit. Props combinations. Okay, now that sounds a bit technical. It is, but this definition of done is a technical checklist, and it's meant for the developers. So it's okay that it's technical. It's good that it's technical, and it's good that it's there's no words like maybe or could or something. It says all, right? Exercise all props combinations. So there's definitely a yes/no answer to this for every view layer component. And so that's a good example of a way to strengthen the definition of done. Definition of done is really important for every Scrum team to have because it sets the quality bar. And you would expect that the definition of done gets stronger and stronger as the team matures, which means that their quality bar is going up. And so if we don't revisit the definition of done, there's always this risk that the team is not improving its quality bar, and it's probably accumulating kind of a bad reputation, either in the business or among the other teams, that it's not producing quality work. So it's important to revisit this, and I think that if there's a team that isn't revisiting this frequently, the Scrum Master should make sure that they bring it up on a regular basis and try to make each item in the list very tangible, clear yes or no answerable with a yes or a no, and valuable. So I've increased my definition of done to something that I think I can achieve in the next sprint, and I may revisit it next time. So that was a short retrospective, but it gives a good example of the type of things you should discuss in the retrospective. And next episode we'll do sprint planning again. and then get started on the sprint. Thanks for watching, guys.